at all of you. Oh. Greg is making faces at me. Yeah. I'm so grateful you're here today. I love this community. And this community started from an idea. I became a minister in 2011. And I had no intention of starting a community. I just want you to know that. By the way, in ministerial school, I promised myself that that's the one thing I wouldn't do. Because I had a class with Reverend Georgia Prescott, if you guys know who she is, and she talked about starting your own community, and she talked about how challenging it was and all the difficulties and stuff, and I'm like, I'm never doing that. Right, have any of you said I'm never doing that and then end up doing that? Yeah. What happened to me is I went to Peru, and I started, I went and I saw this shaman, and I saw this vision, and it was an amazing vision where I had forgotten all of my human fears, worries, notions, ideas of restriction, right? I was completely free, like I was that divine self that we all are told about and sometimes we connect with, and I felt so expansive, and I felt like, oh my gosh, I could do anything. And so and then I came back and I started telling different ministers about this vision and how I saw myself being the community leader. And for me, I thought that was a vision like 20 years down the road, you know? I just became a minister, you know? And then I thought it was something like way down in the road. And so I started talking about being a community leader and how inspiring it would be to see a new community. And then I had this minister, which I was on the trip with, Reverend Kathy Ann Lewis, who said, oh, I'll give you $5,000 to start your center. And I was like, not ready for that. Have you ever had that happen too? Like, I'm not ready for this. Wait, I thought this was a vision in 20 years in the future. And then, but so she said, hey, I'll give you this money. I believe in you. And she said, go home and talk to your home minister, see if he'll give you some money to help seed fund this place too. And he did. And so did Heart and Soul as well. So we have there's a bunch of centers that donated money for this place to happen. Because they all believed in you. You hadn't come here yet. You hadn't come here yet. But they made an investment in your life being changed. I watched this video this morning by Reverend Kathy Ann Lewis, and she was talking about the time change, so we all gained an hour. Yay! And she said, well, what are you going to do with your time? What are you going to do with your hour of extra time? Are you going to just, squirrel it away, or are you going to create an investment with it? What are you going to invest with your hour of time? And she talked about how everything that we do in our life, right here and right now, is an investment for the future. And we get to choose how we're investing our time in the future. So some of us might be investing our time doing nothing, and some of us might be investing our time in actively praying and intending a new future for ourselves and for this country. So I want to encourage you on Tuesday, which is kind of an important day for this country. I want to encourage you to do something that I'm going to do. It's called Elevate the Vote. And to elevate the vote, we're going to commit to meditating sometime on Tuesday. Just commit to meditating to sometime on Tuesday. If you want to be big and bold, go to a polling booth and sit there and meditate. But if you want to, you could just be at your house. And you could sit at home. And you can imagine that every single person in this country is a being of light. Every single person in this country is valuable and valued. That we're all part of a collective. We're part of the wholeness that is this divine life. And it's not just this country, it's all countries. But right now, focus on sending your love and light out to each and every person in this country. Filling them with joy, filling them with appreciation, and just imagining that. Because that's going to make a difference. We're all connected. Whenever Reverend Linda's husband falls down a mountain and injures himself, we all feel it. The impact of that one person being injured impacts this whole community. And that's the same thing with one person choosing to make a difference in the world. One person stepping into a new idea of possibility for this world. And that person is you. That person is me. We are the ones we've been waiting for. This country isn't going to change if you just look outside and tell other people that they're the ones that got to change things. This country is not going to change. This life of yours is not going to change unless you look within and you become the change that you want to see in the world. Now, there's ways that you can do that. You can look at people who inspire you, people who have done courageous things, and you can realize that the thing that was within them is the same thing that's within you. And it doesn't matter what you did in your past. It does not matter. The past is past. And each and every one of us have done things in our past that maybe we're ashamed of, or we, know weren't the best decisions. But that doesn't mean that you have to be declared who you are by your past. You can declare who you are right here, right now, and create a new future for yourself. I love this book that I'm reading. This is our new book of the month, Awakening the World. I only have one right now in the back, so first person there gets it. This is by Llewellyn Von Lee. And he is a Sufi, a global dimension to spiritual practice. And I love what he says. He says that spiritual seekers have always been pioneers, going beyond the surface values of the collective to explore a deeper reality. The world is not going to be saved by the politicians or the corporations, but by those in service to the divine that is within themselves and within the world. Because we all have the tools to experience and practice oneness. We have the tools. We have everything we need within us. We may not realize it, but we do. Ernest Holmes says in The Science of Mind, and I'm going to, by the way, I'm changing man to be more gender inclusive in this quote, by the way. The answer to every question is within humanity, because each human is within spirit, and spirit is an indivisible whole. The solution to every problem is within each of us. The healing of all diseases is within each of us. The forgiveness of all sin is within each of us. The raising of the dead is within each of us. Heaven is within each of us. That is why Jesus prayed to this indwelling I am and said, Our Father which art in heaven. And again he said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. So the kingdom of heaven is within each and every one of us. We can create an experience of heaven on earth right now. We can create that. And I know that it's been challenging. But what Llewellyn Von Lee says is that collectively we seem to be unable to step beyond our self-interest and embrace the oneness of life in the world. Of course, there's a price for this step. In the West, we'll have to lose so many of the privileges we've taken for ourselves. We might have to sacrifice our dominance and the greed we disguise as consumerism in order to embrace wholeness and oneness. Do you recognize your wholeness? Do you feel like you're a spiritual seeker? Do you feel like you're a spiritual being that is here on intention? And maybe you don't know that you are. So I'm telling you right now, you are a spiritual being. You are here on intention, on purpose. You came to this world for a purpose at this time, for such a time as this. You chose to incarnate in a place where there's war and famine, where there's incredible strife, where there's incredible sadness. There's absolute opposition going on right now. And you chose to come here, and the reason why you're here today is because there's something that's stirring within you, because you're here to make a difference in the world. You're here to be a place of peace and love. Now, some of you might think, not me. No, you don't know who I've been or what I've done. Did you know that Jesus was a heretic? Did you know that Jesus was a person who he swore and he talked to all the lepers and he was hanging out in all the dirty places, right? And everybody in society thought of him as one of the most despicable people. Until they started seeing that he was being the love in all of those circumstances. They didn't like what he said, though. They didn't like that he was giving people back to themselves. He was telling people, you have within you what you need to change the world. That's what Jesus was telling people. You have within you what you need to do to change the world. He wasn't saying that this God that's outside of us is better and bigger and you need to worship him. That you need to go and be this, devout person who loses everything. He wasn't talking about that. He was talking about the love that's within. I went to this Association for Global New Thought conference, and we had this big conversation about the fact that here in Science of Mind communities or Centers for Spiritual Living, there's a lot of people who don't talk about Jesus. And the reason why is because people have been beat up by churches who talked about Jesus, and they used Jesus as a man to represent how bad you are and what a bad sinner you are. And so we're talking about reclaiming that history in this organization that Ernest Holmes was a Christian. And he founded this organization. But the thing is he founded it on his beliefs, but also the belief system that there is one truth that runs through all the religions. And this is a truth that is exactly how God works, how the mind of God works, how the universe works. And there's principles that you can look in a Sufi book, or you can look in the Buddhist teachings, or you can look in the Kabbalah, and it's saying the same thing. And that's what Ernest Holmes was teaching us, is that there's something universal that is this great creator that's within each and every one of us, and we have access to it. We can tap in, tune in, and be a part of that expression. And it talks through us. Jesus wasn't the last prophet. If each and every one of you here is a prophet. Each and every person is a prophet. And if you look at the history of prophets, usually the prophets are the people who've done some terrible things in their past. Usually, they're not the people that every single, since the day they were born, everything worked perfect for them and their life was just charmed and blessed, and that's why they're the prophet. No. Very few people who've been prophets in this world have been like that. Mostly, it's been people who have had great mistakes. They've done things and they awaken to the fact that that's not how they want life to be anymore. They've awakened to something deeper and more profound within them that says, there's something better than this. And I know that I can be the change. And whenever I mean be the change, that means that each and every one of us gets awakened to those parts of ourselves that maybe aren't working for the world. And we get to step into those areas of uncomfortability and actually claim the fact that we are made of this divine stuff. This thing called love, this thing called God, this thing called the universe, this thing called light. Each and every one of us has that within us. That we are all the prophets. God hasn't stopped speaking. It's speaking through us, through each and every one of you, to each and every person. So I read this article by this woman named Kelly McGonigal. How you can find the good in a nasty election cycle. And the first thing she says is, do you believe that people are basically good? And I do. I believe deep down everybody here is basically good. Every person even believes that they're basically good. Even when they're committing horrendous acts, everybody inside believes they're basically good. Because we are. And so she promotes 3 things to do. The first thing, if you want to find the good in this cycle, is you get to do something. Think about what matters most to you in this election. Then, if you're eligible, vote. If you're not eligible, volunteer. And no matter what, even if you don't do either one of those, meditate. I put that in. She didn't. That is doing something. It is doing something, absolutely. The second thing is to look for the good. Are there destructive forces as well as virtue in all of us? There is. There's destructive forces and there's beneficial forces. And we each have the choice on which one we're going to feed, right? There's a story of the two wolves that are having a fight inside each and every one of us, the bad wolf and the good wolf, so-called. You know, the one that's for your harm and the other one's for your good. Which one wins if they're having a fight? The one that you feed. So you have the choice on what you want to focus on during this time period. One resource that she recommends is NPR's Story Course. So they've had a weekly series of audio and video stories called with hashtag Who We Are. And they describe it's a real life stories told by everyday Americans that speak to our best selves. Stories that amplify love over hate and empathy over fear. That build bridges of understanding between people and help us recognize our shared humanity. You see, research shows that stories don't just make us feel better, but they actually help us feel awe and gratitude and self-transcendence. So if you actively search for the things, if you look for the good, you will be cultivating that experience not only in yourself, but in everybody around you. And the third thing she recommends is to do good. So 1 is do something, 2 is look for the good, and 3 is to be active in doing good. Because each and every one of us can make a difference. So I want to charge you this week for you to take on an act of good. I want you to do one act of good somewhere, some spontaneous random act of kindness to somebody, and just do it. And it could be you let somebody in front of you in the grocery line. It could be you notice somebody's having a bad day and they're the checker. You smile at them and you say, hey, I really hope you have a great day. And you tell them something fabulous about themselves. It could be any little thing. You could give money to somebody who's on the street who needs money. You could be supporting, if you're doing bridge tolls, you could pay for the person behind you. I know there's not a lot of actual active people on the bridge tolls around here anymore. Or coffee. You could pay for somebody else's coffee. There's little tiny acts of goodness that make people's day. I have to say recently, for some reason, I keep getting people who let me in front of them in line because I'll have like one item and they have a whole grocery cart full of things. It's happened to me like 4 or 5 times recently. And it's so heartwarming. I feel so good about society, about our world, about our country, about what's going on in the world just by that little act. So I want to challenge you to do one good random act of service this week. I want you to encourage you to think outside your box, maybe do something that you wouldn't normally do, and have fun doing it. Do any of you have some ideas?
Could spend 2 hours at Linda's house.
You could spend 2 hours at Linda's house. That's a good one. Linda's going to be like, oh my God, 40 people have just showed up. I love it. Yes, Jana.
I really love buying people's coffee at Starbucks with people, and they don't know it. I just pay for it and I walk out before they can do it.
I love that. Yeah, just buying somebody's coffee. It's so nice. Uh-huh. Oh, give a couple of flowers away. Buy yourself flowers. Give to yourself. And then give some away. I love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm having friends over to raise the vibrations.
Oh, good. I love it. Yeah. Have friends over. Raise the vibration. Yes.
When I call, like, numbers or, like, say DMV, I get a number, I ask them, like, hi, how are you doing today? Rather than, like, hi, can I get what I'm needing from you? So it really, like, they take it back a little bit.
I love that. Yeah, whenever you're just like, if you're at the DMV or you're talking to somebody that you need to talk to, instead of just going right into business, ask them how they're doing, because it's a real person on the other end of the phone. That's a really big deal. It means a lot. Yeah.
Even if you're like taking that phone call and it's a challenge phone call, at the end, appreciate the person that helped you.
Okay, yeah. If you have a challenging phone call and you still end up appreciating the person who helped you and thanking them with true sincerity. I love that. I appreciate that. Yes.
Smile.
Smile.
Down the street with a smile.
Smile. Yeah. That's so simple. So the simplest things. It's really beautiful. I saw this man at the Association for Global New Thought conference. His name is Nipun Miha. And he is this amazing founder of Service Space. I don't know if you've ever gone to that website, Service Space. Well, the founder was there at the conference that I was just at. And he works on projects that have an intersection of volunteerism, technology, and the gift economy. He also started the Karma Cafe. I don't know if you've heard that. That's in Berkeley. And it's where you walk into the cafe and you get a zero bill. And then you decide to pay for the next person's meal. So whoever came in before you, they paid for your meal, and then you just choose what you want to pay for the next person's meal. And it doesn't matter what you pay. It's completely on a gift economy. It's completely, yeah, and that's in Berkeley. And he has some more that have started sprouting up all around. It's amazing. Well, on the Service Space, there's this story that was listed. It was posted yesterday by person named Splain. I don't know. They're all, usernames. I'll explain this to you. It's called The Man on the Side of the Road. And this was literally posted yesterday. It says, last night we went out for dinner, and on the way home we saw a large something on the side of the road. Suddenly I realized as I had driven by what I had seen. It was a man. We turned the car around and raced back. I thought he had been hit by a car and he was either dead or he was really hurt. But when we got here, he was trying to stand up. And we both raced over to him and he screamed at us to just go away. And then the person spoke to him about how worried we were and asked if he was okay. All the time walking closer. And then as they walked, they realized that the man was very, very drunk. And they also realized that he was very elderly as well. And so they went over to him and they said, hey, mister, we recognize that you need to get home and we would like to take you home. And he was touched by their compassion. He had just been thrown out of a taxi because he was drunk. And so they escorted him home. And the elderly man was, as they put him back to his house and he kind of stumbled forward towards his house, they were going back in their car and he kind of clumsily walked back over to them and he gave them big hugs. And he was so thankful for them, for their caring. And so as this person drove back, they said, what so amazed me was I had no thoughts of judging this man, but felt such empathy for him. I said to Stuart, who was with me, how hard life must be to walk in his shoes. So it's just a little story, something that happened 2 days ago to somebody. And we don't know what people are going through. We don't know what the thing that we do can make an impression on each and every person. We don't know how big that impression is. How many of you have had random acts of kindness done to you? Yeah. Yeah. And how has that impacted you? Yeah. Yeah. It's total heart opening, uplifting. Because whenever we're talking about wholeness, we're talking about realizing our humanity with each other. We're realizing our connectedness with each other. And as I have had many down points in my life, it was because of the community and the people who surrounded me, and sometimes a random stranger, who lifted me up in those times of need. You see, you are the hands and feet of the divine. You are the hands and feet of God. When people pray for a miracle, sometimes you're the miracle, and you may not even know it. So I want to encourage you, if you have a feeling or a feeling inside to do something different, to go up to somebody who you may not know and say something nice to them, I want you to go with it. Because that's how the divine speaks through us. It speaks through each and every one of us every day, and you are part of that divine unfolding of wholeness on this planet. So I want to ask you today, would you be willing to sacrifice dominance and greed to experience wholeness at a deeper level? What could you be doing now that if you don't do, you'll regret it? What is that thing maybe that you have an inspiration to do, that you want to step into, that you want to create or do or imagine or help or support, that you sort of feel like, oh, I think I should do it, but if you don't, you know you'll look back and you'll regret it. Wouldn't you rather live your life to the fullest and not look back at regrets? That's the one thing that they say, the elderly always say, is that I don't regret, I don't have any sadness about what I did do. I have sadness about what I didn't do. And just think about that on a daily level, on what can you be doing to help support yourself, your life, and this community, in this world, in a way that works for everyone. Because we're all responsible for it, and we can do it together. So I want to encourage you in this election cycle, do something, look for the good, and be the good. And we can do this together. All right? Yes. And go vote. Let's pray. I'm so grateful to know that I am here in a place where things are shifting and moving, where there is an evolution, a revolution, a revelation that is happening in me and in each and every person here. I'm so grateful to know that I am awakening to that sense of wholeness. I am awakening to that sense of oneness, where I can step and embrace those parts of myself, those parts of other people that I used to disdain. I now choose to look at those places in myself, to look at those places in other people with love, recognizing that it's part of the wholeness, it's part of the evolution, it's part of the elevation of the planet that is happening right here and right now, is to embrace all of that. All of the messiness, all of the challenge, all of the difficulty, knowing that something is shifting in all of that. There is a great birth happening. There is a great birth happening in consciousness that's opening me up to a greater sense of realization of what love really means. And so as I feel that inside, I know it makes an impact from each and every person that I come in contact with. I'm so grateful to know that I'm here making a difference on this planet just by being. I listen to my intuition. I listen to that force within that causes me to step out courageously in new ways, that causes me to embrace people in new ways, that causes me to see and shift my perspective so I can open to a greater good of what is happening on this planet. As I surrender into that idea, I know that this week I am captivated, I am motivated, I am moved to stand for something that is absolutely creating shift and change in this world. That I am the transformation, I am the change that I wish to see. I am that point of inspiration and illumination, and I claim that for myself. I claim that for each and every person here, that something awakens within us, that we are compelled to move in a new way, with new actions, some ways that have never been done before. And so as I allow that growth to happen in me and in each and every person here in this community, I know that this is truly a beautiful blossoming, a new beginning. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this nation. I'm grateful for the elevation of the vote. And I'm grateful knowing that however it transpires is the exact right and perfect good for all involved. And so I celebrate each and every person involved. I am grateful. I am blessed. And I know that each and every person here is blessed. And so I release this prayer, letting it go, letting it be, and knowing it is done. We are truly a blessing for humanity. Thank you, God, and so it is.
And so it is.
Bye.